Most career moves often look like progression on the surface, but what I've realized, every move comes with a trade-off that sometimes isn't realized until it's too late. Some of those trade-offs will be a skills trade-off, an opportunity trade-off, and your responsibility trade-off. Let's start with the first one. So looking at a skills trade-off, let's say you go from a person that's working, you're kind of in the weeds, you're an individual contributor within marketing. Maybe it's a different role, maybe you're a developer, and then you become a manager. What changes in that is the actual work that you do, right? Think about it. You go from the execution of the plan to being more of a communicator, someone who's aligning various teams. You're in a leadership role. There's a whole different skill set that comes with that. And one thing that I've seen over time is once somebody goes down that leadership path and they're further removed from the work, they can't jump right back into the work because it changes it moves pretty quickly. I saw that with Google Ads. In a very short period of time, the entire interface changed. There were different features that were available. But it's just a different focus, a different set of skills that one learns. And sometimes I don't think people think about that. They make that move maybe out of belief that that's the natural progression and you have to say yes to that. But oftentimes I've met some people that really enjoyed leadership and they prospered and they did amazing. And I've met other people that wish they hadn't have made the move and in some case actually find their way back to being in the weeds, actually doing the work, that type of skill set. The next is an opportunity trade-off. I saw this with an opportunity that had opened up, and it was a completely new department within a very successful company. And the way I viewed that new role, although it was very enticing, it would move somebody from working on one marketing channel to overseeing all marketing channels for this new department. Now that could be a really huge win and a great career opportunity and having the ability to work on multiple channels versus one. But the way I looked at it, for me personally, is I enjoyed the work that I was doing in paid search, Google Ads, and I also saw the amount of spend we were managing and the responsibility we had with that role and the overall business of the entire company. And to me, there were just a lot of startup, maybe unknowns, maybe who knows what the future would hold for that role. And somebody had, other than me, had taken that role, had said yes to it. I declined. They had said yes to it. And it was really tough because it didn't meet the expectations that were proposed for it. And I think things change in business, so maybe that's just the way things go. But unfortunately, that role was that actually whole department and that role was dissolved. I'm trying to think how long it took. It might have been a couple years or something like that. But that's the risk you take in moving into something like that. And early on, that was something that I thought could be a potential, moving from a huge role that had a lot of responsibility and a lot of money under management to something completely new that perhaps if it didn't work out, that role and that whole team would be eliminated, which is unfortunately the event on that. So there was an opportunity cost for that. The next is the trade-off of responsibility. So I think that's a big one there in terms of what your responsibilities are in that role. And I'm thinking of somebody that went on to start their own company. They were very excited about that. It was a physical product. And one of the conversations we had, just catching up, seeing how things were going, and what is shocked, maybe not as shocking, but a realization was they had thought that they would be able to do more marketing in this new startup of their own company, their own physical product. And being a founder or co-founder in the company, there were a lot more high-level business responsibilities that needed to be managed. So taxation, production, fulfillment, all of those aspects to the business became the priority over being able to be in that marketing role all day. So the responsibility changed. So we have those three potential trade-offs. We have the skill set trade-off, the opportunity skill set trade-off, as well as the trade-off for your responsibilities. Now, these can go either way. It may be something that you really enjoy, but I think it's important to think about what those trade-offs are. There was a call that we had. There's two particular instances I recall talking with somebody that they moved up into management and they missed the work that they had done. Actually, I can think of three instances now. And in two of those cases, those people worked, actually got out of that management role and went back to doing the work that they were doing over time because they enjoyed it. It wasn't that they weren't good at it. It was that they enjoyed being hands-on, being in the weeds, doing the work, being in the software, those types of things, pulling the data, doing the data analysis, writing the code, all of those different aspects. So one of the things to keep in mind is you have to think about what the trade-offs are, what the potential upside is, what the downside is, what that daily work is. Maybe having a good understanding about what that work is up front before you make a decision like that. So the question is not, is this a good opportunity, but the question is, what are the trade-offs, and am I willing to make those trade-offs? I remember fairly early on in my career, some of the new people that I work with would just put out these scenarios because at the time there were a lot of people moving to various tech startups or big organizations with really huge compensation packages and things. And somebody asked, "Hey, would you leave to go to XYZ company?" And I didn't even hesitate. It was no, because I knew, and I had said I know what I want. I knew what I wanted in the current company, enjoyed the role that I was currently in, so all these shiny objects didn't appeal to me. It wasn't something I felt I needed to take. And I shared one of the things, just being a little bit older and further down the path, I'd mentioned, early on, we have this belief that we have to say yes to every opportunity that comes along, with the belief maybe that was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And that could be the case in some instances. But what I've seen is, with technology and things changing, there's other opportunities down the road, opportunities you wouldn't even foresee. So don't ever feel that pressure of needing to say yes. And I think part of the yes in there too is also that's where the big compensation is in management, in leadership, where the higher salaries are, where the bonuses are, where the stock options are. So that is very enticing, and you may make that move. But I guess you can always think of it too is that change going to be permanent for life? Now, it may be difficult to get back to what you were doing, maybe unless you change companies or something along that line. But think of, not only is it a good opportunity, but think about, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to gain from that opportunity? Maybe talk to people that are in that role. I remember several years ago, I met somebody that was a top sales performer in a company, and they became a manager, sales manager. And I remember asking him how they made that decision to make that transition. And they said, well, in that case, they definitely took a pay cut, but they knew there was a guaranteed salary versus the ups and downs of a commission professional sales rep. And it could be significant, some of the numbers in commission sales, but there is also the volatility. You could have a big account that disappears. They they have new management and they change to a different competitor. So there was a lot of volatility where this person's particular instance was they were starting a family and they wanted something that was more reliable in the future. So that's it. Think about those trade-offs. What are the skill trade-offs? What are the opportunity trade-offs? And what are your responsibility trade-offs? And then you can more comfortably make the right decision moving forward to what's best for your skill set and best for the path you want to take moving forward. Thanks again. Be smart, make the right choices, and we'll talk soon.